My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. On this blessed feast of the Epiphany, we contemplate the wise men, these three giants of history, as they enter the stable in Bethlehem and offer their gifts to the King of Kings. Our imagination will have to do most of the work, since we only meet the Magi at the culmination of their long journey. If they set out from Babylon in Persia, they covered some 1,100 kilometers, or nearly 700 miles. Why have they been such giants down through the ages? We need to know, because we want to leave behind us a deep and wide furrow with our lives. Their secret: they searched, they found, and then committed their whole being to that which they had discovered. Just imagine each of these wise men, attentive to the divine motions in their soul. Once they had heard that voice deep within, they set out to follow that star. They had a clear sense that they had discovered the deepest meaning of their lives. Jesus, fill us with a keen desire to commit ourselves to your action in our lives, in both the major decisions we will make, as well as our daily choices. We want our lives to be built on rock. How wonderful if our friends could describe us as constant, reliable, solid. Consider in the first place the importance of being reliable in our daily commitments. Being reliable means that when our friends need support, they do not even have to ask us or wonder if we will show up. They can know with certainty that we will be there. I really wish I could recall where I read the following jarring anecdote. A 10-year-old boy was delirious with excitement about a camping trip with his father. He spent the entire week preparing for the outing. Then, on the eve of the trip, his dad explained that he was not feeling well, so they would have to postpone the trip. You can imagine the disappointment of the boy. Early the next morning, he was awakened by some noise in the driveway. Looking out the window, he saw his father loading his golf clubs in the car. The emotional trauma of that moment stayed with the boy for 40 years. Far more important are those permanent commitments that shape our lives. We think of the decision of the Magi to set out on their journey. They never looked back. Day after day, they rode on with heroic constancy. The persistence of the Magi is especially important for us, given the glaring lack of permanence in our world today. The Magi were solid like granite. We, on the other hand, are surrounded by sogginess. In 1999, the sociologist Zygmunt Bauman captured this lack of solidity with the term liquid society. Ours is a time of social breakdown and the collapse of grand narratives, in which fluidity takes over from stability as the new norm of human existence. Bauman observed that whereas before we understood ourselves as pilgrims in search of deeper meaning, we are now tempted to live as tourists in search of multiple, fleeting social experiences. Back in 2016, Pope Francis met Bauman and had an intense discussion with him. The Holy Father most likely had the notion of liquid society in mind when he wrote the following to young people. Today, a culture of the ephemeral dominates. To think that nothing can be definitive is a deceptive lie. In a culture of relativism and the ephemeral, many preach the importance of, quote, enjoying the present moment. They say that it is not worth making a lifelong commitment, making a definitive decision. I ask you, instead, to rebel against this culture that sees everything as temporary. Lord, make us sensitive to the danger of focusing inward on ourselves and on the emotional satisfaction we are experiencing rather than on the star, the commitment we have made. Far too many people reason, as soon as the path I have chosen no longer fulfills my emotional needs, I quit. That was not the attitude of the Magi. Imagine those moments during their journey when the star disappeared from view. How easy it would have been to shrug their shoulders and give up their quest. But no, they forged ahead. The preacher of the papal household, Father Cantalamessa, once preached to young people about the importance of forging a permanent bond in matrimony rather than simply living together. In any relationship, there will be rocky moments. That is precisely when the reality of a permanent commitment will help the couple survive that test of their fidelity with their relationship intact. To illustrate this, Father Cantalamessa recounted the story of Odysseus, who was desperate to return to his wife Penelope after an absence of 10 years after fighting in the Trojan War. He knew that he and his crew would have to sail past the notorious Sirens, whose bewitching song was irresistible and made all sailors who passed by them crash against the rocks and perish. In order to avoid this danger and reach his wife, Odysseus had himself tied to the mast of the ship, and he had his companions plug their ears. The Sirens called out. Odysseus begged his sailors to set him free, but they could not hear him. And in this way, they survived that rocky moment and reached their final destination. Well, in the same way, any couple will have tough moments. Those marriage vows will enable them to survive that momentary test of their fidelity. But without permanent vows, all bets are off, to put it bluntly. Jesus, help us to see how much is at stake in the decisions we make. As the Holy Father said, how hard it is in our time to make the ultimate decisions. The temporary seduces us. We are victims of a trend that pushes us to the temporary, as if we wanted to stay teenagers for life. We should not be afraid of the agreed commitments that involve and affect the whole life. In this way, our lives will be fruitful. A wonderful way to draw our prayer to a close is to consider our Mother Mary. Pope Francis highlighted her solidity in a powerful way. We are always struck by the strength of the young Mary's yes. The strength in those words, "Be it done," that she spoke to the angel. This was no merely passive or resigned acceptance, or a faint yes, as if to say, well, let's give it a try and see what happens. Mary did not know the words, let's see what happens. She was determined. She knew what was at stake, and she said yes without thinking twice. Hers was the yes of someone prepared to be committed, someone willing to take a risk, ready to stake everything she had, with no more security than the certainty of knowing that she was the bearer of a promise. Mary, my mother, help me help each one of us to make this kind of a commitment to forge ahead no matter what. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.